when a loved one dies, you want to ensure that their legacy is remembered in a respectful and special way. Well, how's this for an idea? In what's believed to be a first for WA grieving families, they've been able to plant trees from the ashes of their cremated loved ones, and they've done it here in the southwest. On Sunday, families from across the state planted seedlings within Wellington Forest infused with cremated human remains. The ABC's Sebastian Neuweiler headed down to find out more.
Warren Roberts is straining as his shovel hits the hard earth within the Wellington Forest. He's digging an ankle-deep hole for a marri seedling wrapped in a biodegradable container. But there's a twist. In a first for Western Australia, this seedling will be fed with cremated human remains.
I've got this idea, if we put ashes in trees, people can create beautiful places and people can connect to the beauty that life creates instead of connecting to what they lost.
The idea came to Warren several years after losing one of his closest friends.
We were going to uni together and she suddenly died. And I was at a funeral and someone put their hand on my shoulder and they said, "Warren, are you okay?" I said I was fine because I wasn't crying, and I wasn't fine, I was devastated. And the reason I was devastated was because I was connecting to what I'd lost.
Warren says it wasn't until he returned to nature that he was able to move past his grief.
7 years of avoiding grief and depression and feeling, and it took like a month of being in nature and feeling beautiful and feeling a part of life to going, wow, life is beautiful. And not as is it beautiful, but like to be able to love life as a whole, even though we lose the people we love, to be able to still love fiercely and live fiercely and live your life as it was. So I quit my job and I committed to doing this because it's beautiful, it makes me feel alive.
From there, Warren created the funeral company Living Legacy Forest. He approached the Greater Metropolitan Cemeteries Trust with his idea to plant trees using cremated remains.
The cemetery said, "Warren, we'll support you, but we know that ashes kill trees, so you've got to prove that it works." So for the next 12 months, we killed every tree we touched with ashes.
Yeah.
None of us had any idea just how toxic they were. 90% of trees died within 14 days of being planted, even with diluted ashes, because what happens is ashes have the same pH as bleach and oven cleaner, 12 out of 14. They contain about a cup of salt. And it's terrible for ecosystems. It doesn't allow soil biology to exchange energy with a tree. It doesn't matter if you wrap it in a biodegradable container, it still has that same pH. You need to treat it so it can sustain life.
Eventually, a process was locked down. By reducing the high salt and alkalinity levels of cremated remains, the ash could be converted into plant food.
It took us 2 years to do that. It took us another year of the government Cemetery Trust testing and validating it. 3 years later, became a real product.
It's a moment Andrea Garvey has been waiting more than a year for.
Last year, as Mum was as she was dying, and then consequently afterwards, we knew Mum wanted to be cremated because that's what she said, but she didn't give any instructions as to what she wanted done with the ashes, and thought, well, sitting on the cupboard wasn't the best.
From there, Andrea resolved to find a commemoration that she felt better suited her mother's life.
And I thought, well, Mum loved gardening and she especially loved trees and the bush. She just loved the bush and for going for drives. So I thought, oh, well, I can do this. I can find a tree. And I looked at biodegradable urns and in looking at that found that they were in two halves, and the bottom half had the ashes and the top half had the potting mix and the little plant, and that's what the part that biodegrades. And I thought, well, why does it not touch the ashes? I wanted the ashes to be involved in some way, and that's when, in looking further, I found Warren on the net.
And when the time comes, Andrea plans to carve out her own patch of earth in this forest.
When I die, I'm here.
Yeah.
So that's it, yeah. I have my little plaque saying all ready to go. I just have free.
It's a really cool concept. That's Sebastian Neuweiler there at the Wellington Forest on Sunday, with families from right across WA this project where they plant seedlings infused with cremated human remains. Very interesting idea. It is a couple of minutes away from 7.